The second the wine glass slipped from my hand and hit the carpet, I knew nothing would ever be the same. April didn't even look back. She just walked out of the banquet hall, full speed, heels clacking, dress swishing, like she couldn't breathe until she got away from me. I stood there frozen in my own retirement party. People weren't even pretending not to stare. Forks stopped clinking, conversations died, and every neck in the room twisted to follow her. My colleagues, my residents, even the hospital board, all wide-eyed. I cleared my throat, tried to chuckle like I was in on the joke. Guess she's always had better timing than me. Nobody laughed. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. My name's Mitch Carver. I'm 62 years old. I live in Fairfax, Virginia. I just retired as the chief of orthopedic surgery after nearly 35 years. Built my reputation on being the calmest hand in the OR, never flinched, never froze, except tonight. You'd think your wife of 33 years would raise a glass to toast your career. Mine raised hers to torch it, started light, talking about how I worked late, missed a lot of dinners, the usual doctor-wife banter. Then her voice dropped. She used to wait in her tutu, you know? Every Thursday, 5 o'clock sharp. You never showed. She meant Ava, dance recitals. Max won the state finals. You said the surgery went long. You never called. She meant our son. You gave everything to everyone, just never to us. By then, I couldn't breathe. To Mitch Carver, she said, lifting her glass. The man who healed thousands, except the people at home. And then she left. I stood there holding a glass of wine I didn't even remember picking up. Room spinning, ears ringing. The sound of people whispering, some pretending to check their phones, others staring at their plates like maybe they could disappear. I felt like I was watching it all from underwater. The speech I had prepared, 10 minutes long, thanking every mentor, every nurse, every intern, just crumbled in my hand. 35 years of surgeries. I rebuilt knees, hips, shoulders, even spines. I thought I was fixing lives, but the only thing that really mattered had already snapped, quietly, slowly, probably years ago. And I hadn't even noticed. I used to be in control. Tonight, I realized I've got nothing left in my hands but broken glass. I didn't move after April walked out. Couldn't. All I kept hearing was my dad's voice in my head, as loud as it was when I was a kid. Control the room, Mitchell. A man never loses control. Growing up with a military father meant everything was about order, no talking back, no excuses. If I got a 97 on a test, he'd ask where the other 3 points went. Missed curfew by 2 minutes once and got locked out overnight. That's just how it was. So I learned early, do everything right or don't bother doing it at all. By the time I hit high school, I knew I'd go into medicine. Not because I loved it, because it was hard. It meant something. It shut my dad up. I had a steady hand, high tolerance for stress. I never cracked under pressure. That became my thing. Then came April. We met at a mutual friend's wedding the summer before med school. She taught elementary school back then. She was the type who kept extra snacks in her purse for kids who forgot lunch. Always smiling with her eyes, not just her mouth. She was everything I wasn't. Soft, patient, warm. We got married the year I finished residency. I was still broke, running on no sleep, covered in coffee stains and stress. She didn't care. She believed in me before there was anything to believe in. When I landed my first big attending job in D.C., she followed me without hesitation. Gave up her tenure track, packed up our whole life in 2 weeks. No complaints. Not one. She ran the house, raised the kids, handled every single thing I forgot. I'd come home to dinner, laundry done, birthday cards signed and sent, like magic. I thought just being there physically, occasionally, was enough. I missed Ava's first recital, said there was a surgery. I missed Max's 10th birthday, said there was an emergency consult. I missed our 20th anniversary dinner, said I was stuck in the OR. Wasn't even true. I was just exhausted and didn't want to sit through a pre-fixed meal at some overpriced restaurant. She never yelled, never slammed a door. She just kept going. I convinced myself my income made up for it. Gave them a big house, private schools, ski trips, Christmas bonuses. That was love, right? Providing, sacrifice. But the truth was, I didn't want to deal with the mess, the noise, the feelings. By the time I hit chief of ortho, I was pulling 12-hour shifts like clockwork. Colleagues joked I lived at the hospital. I did, and I wore that like a badge. Thought it made me a better man. Then came the retirement dinner, my send-off, the big finale. I told April she had to come. I didn't ask, I told her. She hates these events, always has. Says they're stuffy, fake, but, I said, you've been beside me this whole time. It's important you're there. She looked at me for a long time before answering. All right, Mitch, I'll be there. I should have noticed the way she said it, the weight behind her eyes, but I was too busy reviewing my speech. That morning, she came downstairs in a simple black dress. No jewelry, no makeup, just clean and plain. You look beautiful, I said, distracted, tying my tie in the mirror. She didn't respond. I thought I was about to be celebrated, thanked, honored, praised. Instead, I dragged my wife into a room full of people she couldn't stand and handed her a microphone. And now I was standing there, surrounded by glass and silence, trying to remember the last time I actually saw her. Not just looked, saw. The mic felt too light in my hand, like it didn't belong to me. I cleared my throat, looked out at the banquet hall, packed room. Everyone dressed to the nines, wine glasses in hand, waiting to hear the golden boy say goodbye. I smiled, the kind you practice in a mirror, but never quite believe. Well, I started, 35 years, over 10,000 surgeries, and somehow I still can't figure out how to use the new EMR system. A few chuckles, safe ground. I kept going. I want to thank my mentors, my team, especially the night nurses who kept me awake with awful coffee and better advice. This hospital has been my second home. Some days, it felt like my first home. That line got more laughs. I didn't mean it to. I scanned the tables, saw my colleagues, some old med school buddies, a few residents I'd coached through their first fractures, and then, near the back, I saw her. April, still, expressionless. I lifted my glass. But none would have been possible without my wife. April, thank you for standing by me all these years. I stepped back, gave a nod to the MC. He started toward the mic, but April stood up. I froze. She walked up slowly, calmly, took the microphone like it was hers. The room settled fast. Everyone expected something sweet. Maybe a joke about my stubbornness, something tender. She smiled faintly. Most of you don't know me well. I'm April, Mitch's wife. I'm not big on speeches, but 33 years deserves a few words. She paused, looked down at her wine glass, then back up. Mitch is dedicated, focused. He always has been. From the day I met him, I knew he was chasing something bigger than himself. I nodded, lips tight. He'd leave at 5 in the morning, come home after midnight, holidays, birthdays, weekends, all optional if a patient needed him. A couple people nodded, thought she was bragging. I knew better. She kept going, her voice steady but sharper now. Ava used to sit by the front window every Thursday in her little tutu, just hoping he'd show. He didn't. Someone near me shifted in their chair. Max had the playoff game of his life, scored the winning touchdown. We filmed it, sent it to him. He said, "Looks great," and got back to his charts. The room started to feel tight. Nobody moved. "And me," she said. "I stopped setting a place for him at dinner years ago. You can't set a table for someone who never comes home." I stared at her, heartbeat in my ears. She raised her glass. "To Mitch Carver, the man who healed thousands, except the people at home." Then she set the mic down gently and walked off stage. A loud clink. Someone dropped their fork. A cough, then silence. The kind of silence that wraps around your throat and squeezes. I chuckled, sharp, too loud. Well, guess that's the honest portion of the evening. No one laughed. People looked at the tablecloths, the candles, the floor, anywhere but at me. Someone whispered, "Jesus," under their breath. The MC half stood like he was about to jump in and save me. I waved him off, tried to lift my wine glass, but my hand was shaking. And that's when it slipped. Slow, almost in slow motion. Glass hit the carpet with a dull thud and rolled, red wine spreading like a wound. I didn't chase it, didn't move, just watched it bleed out into the beige rug. April was already gone, and I couldn't blame her, not one bit. I didn't stay to shake hands, didn't thank the board. I just grabbed my coat and left. The drive home was dead quiet. No music, no GPS, just the faint buzz of the tires against the asphalt. I kept thinking the night couldn't feel colder than that ballroom. I was wrong. I stepped inside, and the house hit me like a punch. Dark, quiet, still. No lights on, no sound. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring. I tossed my keys in the dish by the door and stood there for a second. Waiting for what? I don't know. Usually I'd head straight for the kitchen, microwave something, check emails on my phone, routine, efficient, safe. But this time, I walked. Every room I passed felt unfamiliar. There was a calendar tacked to the hallway wall, color-coded, full of names, times, little notes I couldn't decipher. PTA meeting, Max, weight room at 4, Ava, choir fittings. I hadn't written a single word of it. The living room had 2 blankets tossed over the couch, a pair of worn-out slippers by the coffee table, half-finished knitting on the armrest. I didn't know who it belonged to. Then came the dining room, not one picture of me on the wall, school portraits of the kids, holiday cards from neighbors, a framed drawing, Ava's signature in purple glitter pen, "To Mommy, love you." I stopped in front of it like it was a museum piece. I'd never seen it before. Upstairs, I pushed open Ava's door. Posters on the wall, Broadway shows, some indie band I didn't recognize, a bookshelf full of fantasy novels, medals hanging from the corner of a mirror. When the hell did she get into track? There was a photo pinned to the corkboard, her and April, laughing at some outdoor event, sun hitting them just right. No trace of me. I backed out and walked to Max's room. Football cleats by the bed, socks all over the floor, a dent in the drywall that looked like someone had punched it. On the shelf sat a trophy. Regional champs, Max Carver, MVP Defense. My stomach turned. I hadn't even known they won regionals. Hell, I didn't know he played defense. Down the hall, the bedroom door was cracked open. I pushed it slowly. April was lying on her side, her back to me, still in her dress. Her hair pinned up like she hadn't touched it since the event. The lamp on her side was off. The room felt like a freezer. I stood there a minute. I thought maybe she'd say something, ask if I had anything to say. But she didn't move, not even a fake breath to let me know she was awake. She wanted me to believe she was asleep. I didn't blame her. I sat on the edge of the bed, unbuttoned my shirt. The silence felt louder now. For the first time in years, I didn't reach for my phone, didn't check the charts, the patient logs, the OR schedule. I just laid back, stared at the ceiling, and realized I didn't know the people living in this house. Not really. And worse, they didn't know me either. I didn't sleep. Just laid there staring at the ceiling while April stayed perfectly still next to me, like we were 2 strangers in a hotel room. By morning, I smelled bacon. It was strange, that smell in my own house. I hadn't been home for breakfast in years. Usually I was gone before the sun came up, sometimes before the coffee even brewed. But that day, I got up, put on a t-shirt, and walked down the stairs barefoot. The kitchen lights were on. April stood at the stove, flipping bacon with her back to me. Ava sat at the table scrolling through her phone. Max was halfway through a bowl of cereal, hoodie up, earbuds in. No one looked up. I cleared my throat and forced something out. Morning. Ava gave a half nod. Max didn't hear me. April didn't turn. I moved toward the table, awkward as hell. It felt like walking into someone else's house. I reached for a coffee mug from the cabinet, poured myself a cup, and stood there holding it like it might do something for me. "Smells good," I said, trying to break the ice. April didn't say anything, just set a plate of bacon on the counter. I pulled out a chair and sat down across from Ava. She kept her eyes on her phone, thumbs moving fast. "So, how's school going?" She looked up, just for a second. "Fine. Any tests coming up?" She blinked. Midterms were last week. "Right." Max finally pulled one earbud out. "You're still here." April let out a breath. Not a sigh, not even annoyed, just tired. I nodded slowly. "Yeah, I'm not going to the clinic today." That got their attention. All 3 looked up. Max squinted. "Why? You sick?" "No," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I need to be here. I've been gone too much. I know that now." The room held still for a beat. April finally spoke, calm and flat. "Well, the dishwasher's broken. If you're here, you can start with that." I looked at her. She wasn't joking. "Yeah," I said quickly. "I can do that." I looked back at the kids. "Listen, I know I haven't been around." "Not really. I thought what I was doing, the work, I thought it mattered more than it did." I was wrong. No one said anything. Max crunched his cereal. I want to fix this, I said. I want to be better. I'm not going to pretend that changes anything overnight, but I'm here now. I mean that. April turned off the stove and wiped her hands on a dish towel. She looked at me. Not angry, not warm, just tired honesty. It'll take more than one breakfast, Mitch. Then she walked out of the kitchen. I stood in the kitchen a while after April left, long enough for the coffee to go cold and the bacon to turn stiff. That's when I knew I had to do something different, something real. A few days later, I walked into a beige office with stiff chairs and low lighting. No music, no fake waterfall sounds. Just a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and zero patience for bullshit. Dr. Kate Lynn. She didn't ask how I was, didn't offer tea or tissues, just looked at me and said, "Why are you here?" I leaned back in the chair, arms crossed. My wife's mad. Kids barely talk to me. Figured I should talk to someone. She nodded once. That's not a reason. That's an excuse. Right off the bat, no hand-holding. I stayed quiet. She waited. Finally, I muttered, "I don't want to lose my family." She tilted her head. "What made you think you ever had them?" That stung. We spent the first couple of sessions chipping through the usual stuff. My job, the pressure, the long hours. She wasn't impressed. "Work isn't the villain," she said. "It's the shield." That one hit hard. You chose to be unavailable. You built a life around avoiding the mess of real connection. Why? I sat there chewing the inside of my cheek. My hands were clenched without me realizing. "My dad," I started, then stopped. Dr. Lynn nodded like she'd already guessed. "Military." "Yeah? And he never gave an inch. Nothing was ever enough. Grades, sports, college, always another test, another goal. He didn't believe in emotions, said they made you soft. And you believed him." "I had to," I snapped. "You didn't cross him. You did what was expected, or you paid for it." She raised an eyebrow. "So you grew up thinking success meant shutting people out." "Not shutting them out," I said. "Protecting them. Holding it together. Someone had to." Dr. Lynn leaned forward. "Let me ask you something, Mitch. What are you actually afraid of?" I stared at her. My mouth opened, but no words came out at first. Then I said it. "They might not want me back." She nodded slowly. "That's not fear. That's truth. Because they already don't feel you're with them." It felt like someone had ripped the stitches out of my chest. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I left her office wrecked. No epiphany, no miracle fix. Just this raw ache in my ribs that hadn't been there before. But the next morning, I sat down at the table again. No phone, no rush, just sat. That night, I helped Max with homework. I didn't even pretend to know the math, just listened. I knocked on Ava's door, asked about her next track meet. She blinked at me like I'd spoken another language, then said it was on Friday. I wrote it down. I even cooked once. Overcooked the pasta, burned the garlic bread. They still ate it. Every time I felt like picking up my phone, I shoved it in a drawer. Every time I wanted to explain myself, I didn't. I just listened. Small things, clumsy things. But they were mine. That night after dinner, I didn't get up and disappear like I usually did. I stood there in the kitchen with my hands jammed in my pockets, watching April rinse off a plate like she'd done it 10,000 times without me. I cleared my throat. "I can dry." She didn't say no, just slid the towel across the counter. I grabbed it, my hands already sweating. It felt stupid, standing next to her, silent, drying dishes like we were two coworkers pretending to be comfortable. She passed me a plate, and I dropped it. It didn't shatter, but the clang was sharp enough to make both of us flinch. My heart jumped straight into my throat. I crouched fast, reaching for it like it was a fallen baby. April didn't yell. She didn't even sound annoyed. She just said, "It's a plate, not a patient." I froze. My hands tightened around the towel. I don't know why, but that cracked something in me. "I don't know how to do this," I said, voice low. "I don't know how to be here and not screw it all up." April rinsed another plate, passed it to me. "You're not great at it," she said, "but I notice when you try." That landed harder than anything else she could have said. I swallowed, nodded, kept drying. We worked in quiet for a few minutes, the kind of quiet that didn't feel heavy, just present. After we finished, she started to leave the room, but I stopped her. "Hang on," I said. "There's something I want to show you." She looked at me like she didn't quite trust the idea, but followed me anyway. I led her into the den, pulled a worn cardboard box from the top shelf of the closet, blew the dust off, set it on the coffee table. "What is that?" she asked, arms crossed. I opened it. Inside were drawings from the kids, stick figures, construction paper cards, scribbled "I love you, Dad" notes in crayon, folded up report cards, a dried flower from one of Ava's first recitals. Near the bottom was a stack of old anniversary cards, her handwriting on everyone, some of them unopened. "I kept them," I said. "All of it. Even when I didn't show up, I kept it. I don't have the right words for why I stayed away the way I did, but I need you to know, I never stopped caring." She didn't say anything at first, just looked into the box like she'd found a time capsule. Her voice was soft but clear. "It's a start, Mitch." "Not a fix." I nodded. That was more than I expected. I parked outside the school auditorium 20 minutes early and just sat there gripping the steering wheel like I was about to go into surgery. The last time I'd been inside that building, Ava was in kindergarten, something with finger paint and cookies. I barely remembered it. I walked in slow, my dress shoes loud against the tile floor. A few parents were already seated, moms in blouses, dads checking their watches. I spotted April and Max near the middle row, 2 seats saved beside them. April turned when she heard me coming, her eyebrows lifted. Not surprise, exactly. More like curiosity. I nodded toward the empty chair. She didn't say anything, just slid her purse off the seat. Max smirked. "You get lost or something." "Funny," I muttered, sitting down. The lights dimmed, and the principal gave some long-winded welcome speech. I didn't hear most of it. My eyes were locked on the side curtain where the students were lined up, waiting their turn. Then I saw her. Ava stepped onto the stage, hands clenched at her sides, black dress, hair in a low ponytail. She glanced at the crowd, scanning, probably looking for April. Then her eyes landed on me. She froze for half a second, just enough that I noticed. Then her face changed. Not a full smile, just this stunned little lift at the corners, like her brain hadn't caught up to her heart yet. She sat down at the piano, her hands hovered, then dropped into motion. Soft at first, then faster. I didn't know the piece, but it was beautiful. She played like it mattered, like she'd practiced with every ounce of her, and she kept glancing over. That crushed me more than anything. The fact that she still looked for me. When she finished, the room clapped politely, but I stood up. Just me. One guy clapping like hell. Afterward, in the lobby, she found me before I could find her, threw her arms around me so fast I nearly dropped my program. "You came," she whispered. I held her tight. "I always should have." She didn't let go for a while. We left together, all 4 of us. I suggested ice cream, half expecting a no. But Ava lit up. Max rolled his eyes. "I'm not getting in a minivan for frozen milk," he muttered. April raised a brow. "You don't have your license yet. Get in." We ended up at that same little place near the old library, the one we used to go to when the kids were still in car seats. The paint on the front window was faded, but the smell inside hit like nostalgia. Sugar, waffle cones, way too much syrup. Max got a double scoop and pretended not to care. Ava told me about her next piece and how she was learning some Chopin thing I couldn't pronounce. I listened. I really listened. April sat across from me, watching all of it quietly. She didn't say much, but there was something different in her eyes. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the start of trust. The night after the recital, the house felt different. Still quiet, still fragile, but warmer, like something cracked open and we hadn't screwed it up yet. I was in my office the next morning, sorting through old case files, when the call came in. Baltimore area code. "Dr. Carver," the man said, all smooth and rehearsed. "We're building a new surgical unit at Johns Hopkins. Top-tier talent only. You were at the top of our list." I didn't say anything. Just let him go on. "It's a leadership role. Full autonomy. Your name on the wing, research funding, cutting-edge robotics, 6-month minimum ramp-up on site. We'd need you relocated by mid-spring." The words hit like they used to. Title, prestige, power. Stuff I spent my whole life chasing. I'd earned it. Every long night, every missed dinner, every wrecked holiday. It all pointed to this kind of opportunity. But while he talked, I heard something else. Downstairs, Max was laughing. Loud, the kind of laugh that filled a room. Ava shouted something back, then April, her voice light, joking, telling them to keep it down. I looked at the framed award on my shelf. Excellence in Orthopedic Leadership, 2017. It used to mean something. The guy on the phone paused, Dr. Carver. I stared at the window, trees moving in the wind, a family inside the house that finally noticed I was in it. Sorry, I said, I appreciate the offer. But I've got a more critical case I'm working on. He chuckled, confused. Well, we'd be happy to work around. I'm not relocating, I cut in. Not now. Not for a while. Good luck with the unit. I hung up before he could answer. I sat back in the chair, took a deep breath, and let the silence settle. Then I got up and walked downstairs. Max was on the couch, controller in hand, headset on. Ava was reading on the floor with a blanket over her legs. April was in the kitchen, flipping through mail. I stood there a second, awkward as hell. Then I cleared my throat. Max didn't look up. You lost. I walked toward the couch. Can I play? He froze, took off the headset, and looked at me like I'd grown a second head. You want to play this? I can learn. Ava peeked over her book, grinning. This I gotta see. Max shrugged. All right, but don't blame me when you get smoked. He handed me the extra controller. I sat down like it was some ancient throne. Buttons everywhere. I had no clue what did what. April leaned against the doorway, arms folded. You turned it down, she asked quietly. I looked over, nodded. We're more important, I said. Her eyes didn't soften, not exactly. But something behind them shifted, like the weight she carried had gotten just a little lighter. For the first time, I wasn't just saying the right thing, I meant it. 6 months later, I was standing in my own kitchen wearing an apron with Grill Sergeant printed across the front and flour smudged across my cheek like war paint. The pasta water was boiling over, the garlic bread was half burnt, and somehow it felt like the best night of my life. April was next to me, rolling out dough with sleeves pushed up and a little smirk on her face. Don't forget to stir that, she said, pointing to the pan. I'm getting there, I muttered, fumbling with the spatula. You think they'll eat this disaster? She shrugged. They've eaten worse. Ava and Max were upstairs. I could hear the muffled sound of music and someone arguing over shampoo. Normal stuff, real stuff, the kind I missed for way too long. I'd started going in later to the hospital, let go of the clinic management. I took actual days off. And when I was home, I was home. I stirred the sauce and glanced over at her. You ever think we'd get back here? I asked. April didn't answer right away, just wiped her hands on a towel and leaned against the counter. I almost gave up, she said. I really did. You were gone for so long, Mitch, not just at work. Gone? I nodded, eyes fixed on the skillet. I know. And I'm sorry it took losing everything to finally see it. She didn't say it was okay. I didn't expect her to. But then she stepped closer, reached up, and brushed flour off my face with her thumb. For years, I said, voice low, I thought saving lives was the most important thing. April looked at me, steady. You just save the ones that matter most. Upstairs, Ava burst out laughing at something Max said. Something slammed, probably a door. The skillet hissed behind us. We didn't say anything else. We just stood there in the middle of the kitchen, together, letting the noise fill the space that used to be so empty. For once, I didn't feel like I had to be anywhere else.